Hey, Survivor Rites. It is Sunday morning already. I don't know where the time goes, but it sure does fly by. Um, we are starting a little bit early today. Happy Sunday morning, everybody. Welcome to Survivor Rites. Our guests today are my dear, dear friends, Kevin and Charlene Eicher. I have known you guys for over 15 years, I've decided. And I was back in my Hell on Heels time when we met.
We might have been too.
Yeah. So what I wanted to say is that we've been through a lot together. I mean, literally, we have truly been a significant portion of one another's lives. We have been through a lot together. I've been through a lot. You've been through a lot. You've had a lot of changes in your life. You've been through evolution. But the reason that I wanted to talk to the two of you primarily is because your pursuit of love and grace has been an inspiration to me, and your desire to live life to the fullest, but also maintain connections with your family that still goes to meeting, love everybody, like just your desire for connection that's what made me want you on the Connection Show. You have worked hard at it with one another and with everybody that you love. So with that, I'm going to let you guys go. Our guests today, Kevin and Charlene Eicher, coming to us from Iowa.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, Kevin, I'm going to let you have the floor.
Okay. All right. I want to introduce myself first. My name's Kevin Eicher. Born and raised in Iowa, fourth generation, 2x2. I left when I was 16 because I really wasn't willing. It's not that I didn't believe, what I was taught, but I could see that I was not living it. And I didn't want to be a hypocrite. I didn't want to live a lie. So I just told my dad, I just can't do this right now. And I went off and lived my life then for, at 31, I went through a divorce, and that left me rather shaken up. So at 33, I went back to the church because I remembered the community, and the feeling of belonging, and I found that in the community at that time. But then I went through, I took, having had all that experience outside of the church, I took a lot in with me when I went back to the church that didn't necessarily rhyme, at all with
Right.
what I was hearing at gospel meeting and at convention and the workers. And so very early on, I had a lot of questions. And in fact, um, at one point, I actually, I questioned everything, right down to scorched earth. I questioned whether there was a God, because you don't have to go very far, and there are people that will prove to you there is no God.
Right.
And so that was the start of my journey, was questioning everything. And I remember I finally got to the point to where, okay, there has to be a creator. There has to be a creator God. And then I had a question. My next question was, what's he like? And that's kind of been the focus of my journey from then on. And that was a good 25 years ago that started.
Yep.
So
Brad's asking if Henry Eicher is your uncle.
Henry Eicher is my great uncle. Well, there's two Henry Eichers. There was a worker, Henry Eicher. He's my great uncle. And then there's another Henry Eicher that was my dad's cousin.
And there's another
Yeah.
Henry Eicher who is your cousin.
Oh, there's a third Henry Eicher that is my cousin. Yeah. Yep.
If you're talking, Brad, about the worker, yes. I'm sure that's who he's talking about. Okay,
Yeah,
Sherlene,
yep.
give us a little bit of
Okay.
information about you. How'd you get
Well,
to
I'm
this
also
moment?
I'm also fourth generation born and raised, and I was raised in Oregon, Springfield, Oregon. So I professed, I had quite a story. I professed at 9, 13, and 20. And you might say even again when I was in my 30s, but I don't really count that. Um, and I was always a questioning child. I can remember when I was 6 asking my dad questions about these, because I knew the doctrine of, we are the only right way. So therefore, um, I looked at the Reader's Digest and all those people and all those stories in there that they tell of people and their experiences of God. And then you'd look at National Geographic and I think, well, how are they going to find out? And so I was very, very troubled about those people all through my growing up years. And I guess eventually I just stopped asking questions. But I was always sort of a rebel, a teen rebel, you'd call. I don't know. I just never quite could agree with everything I was supposed to do. And so I also, when I left home, um, I got pregnant when I was 20 and ended up in a coerced adoption through Wally Baldwin. Um, I was pretty much coerced by my parents and the workers at the time there. But I've since been reunited with her, so that's a whole other story, and it's had a very happy ending. But let's see. Then I got married in my late 20s, and that was a very troubled marriage. It it didn't it didn't go first of all, it was too soon, and second of all, we just had a lot of troubles. And so we divorced in 2000, 2000, and I met Kevin then in 2001, and thus began our journey together.
Tell us about that, because your journey together is quite a journey.
We met um over Thanksgiving in 2001, and we just started actually an online relationship to start with. And in September 2002, I moved out to Iowa. And that's when we actually made the decision to quit going to meetings. So,
I could see. So there's a difference between the West Coast and the Midwest. The Midwest is far more conservative in some things and far less conservative in like, for instance, divorce and remarriage.
Right.
My dad was divorced and then he remarried and spent many, many years with meeting in his home, Sunday morning meeting in his home.
Mhm.
And so on the West Coast, of course, that does not happen. So when she got back here, I could see that it didn't take very long, and you know, sleeveless blouses were out. When I first met her, she had a perm. Her hair was long, but it was definitely had been cut and it was permed. Well, that wasn't going to fly. All these things, and I could just see all this baggage being thrown on her, and that's not what I wanted. So we decided to leave before we even got married. Before we even got married, um, she moved to Council Bluffs, and literally, like the second Sunday she was here, we left the church, which shocked our family, of course. And in her parents' eyes, I corrupted her. In
Mhm.
my family's eyes, she corrupted me.
Right.
And so we had a lot to
well,
deal with there. And we did. I went and saw my parents by myself and explained to them what I was doing and why. And then her parents were, of course, concerned. And so we swapped letters back and forth a couple of times, but eventually we let them know, that what we were doing and why. And we made a decision at the time. I'll never forget. We sat down, and it was obvious that this was going to be a struggle with our family
Right.
for a long, long time. And so we made a decision. We were going to love them no matter what. Come, it, as
Mm.
long as they would allow us to be in their lives, we were going to love them right where they were.
Mm.
You know, I'm not going to try and
Get
I'm
them
not going to
out.
try and I'm not going to try and get them out of the church or anything. That was all they had, is the
Yeah.
church. And if I take it away, if I somehow convince them to get out, then I didn't want to be responsible for all of that.
Right.
We were going to let the Holy Spirit guide them, and we were going to love them through the whole process. And that worked very, very well.
Yes.
I had an amazing relationship with my in-laws,
Yes.
and she still has an amazing relationship with my folks. So that was,
I want to just stop right there because I think that is so important. I want to emphasize the power of the love and the choice that you guys made to love them no matter what they said to you, no matter what they did, you just loved them. And I've watched you do that over the last 15 years. No matter what happened, so I don't know where that came from in each of you that you're able, maybe it was just your connection of being together one another, but um you have let them truly be who they are. You said it, Kevin. We met them where they are. And I have literally witnessed that for 15 years. And you still do. You love them completely for who they are, where they are. So I just want to encourage anybody out there, if you're struggling in your relationships with your family, to lead with love and to just make that choice and say, my relationship, I often say, I feel like the relationship's the only thing we get to take to the grave with us. And so investing in continuing those relationships, that doesn't mean, I'm estranged from my family also. It's very difficult sometimes. You have to have a
yeah, I
boundary.
think it's important. I think it's important to recognize that in both of our histories, there was no
No,
real egregious abuse,
right.
you know. Um,
And they weren't
Sherlene,
actively trying to get you to stop being together or stop doing what you're doing or
right,
stop. Yeah,
No.
right,
right.
right. Yeah. So, and I think it's important. Maybe you've mentioned boundaries before, and I think they are very important,
I agree.
but that doesn't keep us from loving them.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Debbie Franzoni Cole is saying she remembers you as a little girl, Sherlene.
Yes. Hi, Debbie.
Okay, so you decided you wanted to love, and then you started attending a church where grace was taught. Talk to us about that.
We tried a lot of different churches, actually. We tried, well, I say a lot,
Probably
maybe a
3 or
half
4.
dozen,
Yeah.
maybe a half dozen. But then there was a church that several other families were going to that had left the 2x2s right along the same time. And it was, they called themselves a Baptist church, but they were no way affiliated with the Baptist church. I never did quite get how all that worked, but when we went there, they he preached the purest grace I had ever heard in my life. Of course, I hadn't heard a lot about grace, but it was definitely something that was very good for us at the time. And I remember we just reveled in it.
What was
It
the
was
book they were going through? Was it Romans?
well, yeah. Very soon after we went there, they were going through the book of Romans
In their Bible study.
in their Bible study, and that was a very good study for us. So, yeah, and in that we went to that church for how many years?
Probably about 2.5.
We were driving truck at the same time. That's a part of our story together that
Yes.
in 2003 we took driving lessons and
Actually, it
went
was
over the road.
2006 is when.
I'm sorry, 2006. We took driving lessons and went over the road, and she drove 12 hours. I drove 12 hours. It was an amazing experience. It gives us lots and lots and lots of time to think. But during that time, we were also going to that church whenever we would get home, and eventually we realized, okay, and we were also supporting that church. They believed in a tithe,
Mhm.
and we didn't ever give quite a whole tithe, but at some point we realized we wanted to kind of split that tithe up, and not just send it all to one place. We had several ministries we wanted to support. So
Yes.
I just sent them a quick email and told them, hey, we're gonna cut back a little bit and give to some other ministries. And oh my goodness, that got us a visit from the pastor, and he was not a happy camper. And the other thing was, every Sunday when we would go to church, we they preached grace, but there was never any
Growth.
talk about how to live in grace. What does grace mean? Okay, so I'm saved. That's great. Now what? What do I do with that? What does that mean? So we started looking other places, doing other things, and we quit going to that church, and we really haven't been back to any churches since then. We've never really felt a need for it.
Mhm.
I tell everybody that if I want to be with God, I go outside, look around,
Right.
look at the night stars, watch the seasons,
Right.
the cycles, and and that's my cathedral.
Yes.
But
But you have that pursuit of living in grace and living in love. Like, we talk about this all the time. You never, ever, you wanted your lives to reflect your belief system, which is to love one another and as thy neighbor as thyself, and to live in grace. That is a choice that you also made. Um, because I've watched you live it. That you just want your lives, who you are, how you treat people, where you go, how you live, everything is a representation of just being what we always thought was just a good, normal person that believed.
yeah, yeah. So speaking of grace, that has been a journey. I won't say all of its own. It has been the core of the journey that we've made. Um, the very first book I ever read outside of the Bible, any spiritual book I've ever read outside of the Bible, was Philip Yancey's "What's So Amazing About Grace,"
Mhm.
and that seriously opened my eyes, and that actually started the whole process of, well, if I was never taught about grace, and or if this wasn't right, that started my questioning process. It was that, wow, you mean to tell me that I've never been taught this? I've taken the lead on a lot of this stuff, and Sherlene never really fights me. She just it always takes her a little bit longer to catch up, I guess.
Yes.
And go ahead.
One thing that was really, he had 10 years in front of me,
Mm.
really, to think about these things because I had never ever considered leaving before that. And so he already had a head start. And so I was, um, in a lot of ways, I was digging my heels in when he would go off on these new spiritual tangents. And I would be like, oh, you know, I don't know. There was some fear involved. Yes.
Yes. Well, we talk a lot about being curious, and I think curiosity is such an important piece to this whole journey for whoever is out there on this journey of finding their way of what's going to resonate with each individual person. So curiosity is amazing, and some people are just more curious than others. Kevin, you are a curious guy.
Well, and I want people to know that as I was going through this journey of questioning and curiosity, at no point did I ever feel like I was out of bounds. If I and I wrote a whole poem about this. um, I'd get to a point to where I thought I understood everything, and then literally the earth would move underneath me, and I would crash down off my pinnacle of understanding, as I call it, and hit every rock and tree on the way down, and I'd hit the bottom, and I would always have that one touchstone. Then, okay, that wasn't right, but there is a God. There is a God. And so I would start my journey again from there. But at no point did I ever was there was no I never felt any condemnation. I never felt like I was treading in places that I shouldn't go. I always and 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 I want people to know that you can ask questions. It's okay to ask questions. There's a lot to learn. I want to get back to Grace here real quick.
Before we go on, though, I just want everybody to know that he wrote a poem about being born again in the way that he just talked about. So maybe I'll include that.
Yeah.
I'll send that to you and you can put it in the show notes.
Yes, we're going to be posting a list of all the books they're talking about today, and then also the poem. So go ahead.
Yes.
When I started following Grace, what it leads back to is, and my question was always, what is the nature of God? What I was led to was agape, unconditional love. And that doesn't even describe all of what agape is. Agape is the creative force behind everything.
Yes.
And agape is, in fact, unconditional love, that even if I wander off into the wilderness because I have some lessons to learn, that love is still there. And grace is agape love applied personally. Grace is the connection between me and that agape love. When I follow grace far enough, what I come to is a place within myself that has never been harmed, has never been hurt, has never been outside of the love of God.
Right.
It's what you might call it the soul.
Yes.
You might call it Christ within. There is a place in everyone. I don't care how bad a person you are. And this channel, this Survivor Rights channel, is all about how bad people can be. But I want to say that somewhere inside of everyone is a child of God that has never been tarnished. And from that place, I struggled with forgiveness for a long time, because forgiveness always felt like license. Like I was just supposed to say, well, yeah, I know you meant me wrong and you hurt me,
Right.
but it's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about it. You know, I can't live with hatred in my life. I just can't do it. It's in my nature just to, okay, well, if that's the way it is, then I'll forgive you and we'll move on. From that place, from that inner grace, I can forgive
Yes.
without ever having been harmed. And that is a very, very powerful place to be. I remember, like, when you interviewed David Graves, and that moment when you realize, oh, this is not about me.
Right. Brad Graves, but yes.
I'm sorry. Brad Grace.
Okay.
And I remember that feeling, and that is a very, very powerful moment.
It is.
I don't actually live there, but any time you spend there, any brush you have with that inner being that
Mhm.
has never been harmed, it sticks with you for a long, long time.
Yes.
And it helps you see things that you can't see. It helps you see the Christ in others.
Mhm.
It helps me see Christ everywhere I look. And that, I guess, if there's one point that I want to make in our interview here, it's that Kelly
Dobson.
Kelly Thompson is part of Sherlene's 2x2 adoption
She,
page.
she's on.
Yes.
She's on
Yeah.
Survivor Rights too, I
Mhm.
think.
Yeah. Okay. Kelly Thompson, she also has a Substack, but she has something that she says, there's nothing wrong with you. There never was.
Right.
And when you can come to that realization, if you can live in that place for
Mhm.
any time at all, it changes how you look at not only yourself, but everyone and everything. There's nothing wrong with you. There never was.
Mhm. I
So,
think we're so hard on ourselves that it's just very, very difficult to get over that piece of it. But that's the seed of the unworthiness. But that's why we're having conversations like this, is to help people understand that there is enough grace in the agape love of God to fill all of that and to take away the shame. And not that we're coming forward and saying, "Oh, I'm anointed and I'm um from a place of ego." It's not.
so that brings me up to brings me to something else that I remember one time we were in our uh, church. We're going to church. And we were having this Bible study. And we are talking about grace, and I kind of blurted out. I said, "I'm God's favorite,"
Mm,
and then it came to me immediately. So are you,
yeah.
and I believe that, and that was, again, that was another powerful little lesson or realization that I came to regarding grace.
Yes. It is
So,
such a powerful love. I mean, we talk about it all the time, and I'm never going to stop talking about it. So anybody that's out there that's listening, I don't care how we get there, whether you go to church or don't go to church or whatever, at the end of the day, we're going to have a conversation about love. Okay, let's move forward on your conversation forward. You have um you already know what you know. I want you to make that point. You said you
well,
know that you know that you know.
and that's where that inner child is. That's when you find that inner. Jesus called it the light. He talked about the light that is within you, and when you get to that point, then you know that you know that you know
Yes.
that you're okay.
Right.
You're okay, and you're gonna be fine.
Yeah. It's
You
stepping
know.
over that threshold of truly letting God love us, I think. And I
Yes,
think
yes,
that
yes,
that's
yes.
coming out of the 2 by 2s, that is the challenge. It
It
is
is.
the willingness to cross that threshold. Brad talked about it last week. You're talking about it now. It is, when that moment comes, that a full surrender where you literally are like, I talk about it a lot in my own life. I know exactly the moment that I decided that I was going to just let him love me. That was it.
Right.
And I've never looked back.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It is we come in a high control church.
Yes.
Love, as they describe it, is kind of used against you, you
Oh,
know,
yes.
and it's turned against you, as in, well, you're not doing what we think you should do.
Right.
I guess that I want to bring up, and I'm not trying to change the subject or anything. It's all part of the same thing, but um, I do believe that in my journey, I learned very very early on, if I'm going to take the Bible as the inherent word of God, every single one of it is true, then you'd better be very very careful who you allow to interpret that Bible,
Oh,
because that's exactly what I'm talking about. They take that God of love, God, agape love, and turn it against you. and put conditions on grace.
Yes.
And it takes a long time and a lot of conditioning to finally put that aside and realize
Yes.
there isn't anything wrong with me.
Right.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
And but it's a wonderful place to be. So
Absolutely.
I don't know, how much time do we have,
We're good.
Crystal?
We're at a half hour.
Um,
We're so Sherlene, tell us a little bit about your journey. When you first left, I know you didn't read the Bible out of the gate. Talk to us about where you're at with the Bible, where you're at with your. I'm listening.
Okay. Um, well, it was about 8 years before I could pick up a Bible and read it and not hear the messages that go through your head of, past sermons that you've heard from the platform. So I had a very fraught relationship with the Bible for a long time. But when I finally did pick it up, one of the things that I did that I absolutely fell in love with was listening to it and listening to other versions, reading other versions. But I would listen to like whole books at a time, all in one sitting, just listening to it, because it's kind of the difference between driving down the road and flying overhead 30,000 feet in the air.
Right.
And so that started to help me get more comfortable with the Bible, is just listening to these big swaths. And the other thing that helped me was I started reading. It's funny, when we first left, of course I was just adrift. I really didn't know where to go, what to do. I just felt like, oh well, we have to go to church. And then we started driving trucks. So then I started listening to, Chuck Swindoll and the Bible Answer Man and some of those people. And eventually, they have their own kind of form of legalism as well.
Mm.
And so then somehow we were introduced to Richard Rohr, and he began to open our eyes. And we listened on Audible. He had several like talks that he would give, and I listened to all of them over and over and over. And then I read his books, and I don't know, he started to really help me form who I was and kind of what my purpose was on earth. And that I didn't have to be afraid. I didn't have to live in fear. And that was revolutionary for me. It really was. And then eventually we were turned on to other books, or other people. Shane Claiborne was another one that I used to read a lot of, and I love his books because he really practices the kind of love that Jesus showed. He really, I mean, he took that part of the Bible and he went running with it. And he has quite a ministry out in Philadelphia, I think is where he's at. And then um I also I'm kind of a history nerd. So I sat down and I listened to Will Durant's History of Civilization. And there was probably about 7 tomes that I went through. They were all in Audible. Not a big fan of actual reading, but I love listening. And so that gave me a whole nother perspective of our world and of different cultures and how they do things and what they believe. And I was like, wow, it began to open my eyes as to how big God is, how all encompassing, and we can't even fathom. So
Which it's even harder when you come out of a bubble.
it really is. But that was a huge, huge thing for me. So it was kind of after that that I began to not resist Kevin's, what he was in his journey and trying to pull me along. So, yeah, that was when we probably first started kind of getting on the same page, and I was more comfortable with his exploration. And
Yeah,
so
because it wasn't mainstream and it wasn't, what we learned
yeah.
growing up was the way to do it. I love the fact that you said be very careful who's interpreting the Bible. I love that you put a caution out there of even their interpretation of the Bible, because it is clearly, I have a couple things that I say a lot. One is just, what would Jesus do in any situation? If I stop and say, what would Jesus do, when I have truly learned what Christ-like love, what he truly, how he lived, it changes everything. And so, you know, it's not as complicated as we make it, but there is also a huge, big, wide world out there. So
Yeah, one even the things that we're talking about right here, I can imagine that there are people that just can't hear it. It's just too much, too far, too fast, contradicts everything they know to be true, and that's fine. That's great. In fact, I think we're supposed to try the spirits, and if that doesn't work for you right now, but you'll you may never forget the things we talked about here, and eventually someday you may come to kind of agree with some of the things that we're talking about here.
you've also been out a
And
long time, Kevin. You guys have been out
huh?
a long time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. When I think about all the people out there, especially in just the last few years, that were literally going to Sunday morning meeting every single Sunday, going to all the gospel meeting, going to convention, and then all of a sudden their faith lies shattered at their feet, and they just can't go. They just can't believe what they used to believe. I really, really feel for those people. My heart is with them because I've been there to, it took me, the shattering took longer, but in the end, we all have to leave home at some point. We all have to spend some time in the wilderness. Um, what Richard Rohr calls disorder. We all start from a sense of order. We think we understand the world, everything makes sense. And then all of a sudden something happens and nothing makes sense anymore.
Right.
And we struggle and we wander around in the wilderness. And um, eventually we come to a world where there is a sense of order. So this actually, Richard Rohr talks about three containers: order, disorder, and then reorder. So in order, there's laws, traditions, there's customs, um, and you follow those laws and rules and customs as closely as you possibly can. But that's where like only way thinking comes from. Well, okay, then if this is what's true, that must be the only way to serve God.
Right.
Um, yeah, it's black. Anyway, we got some notes here that I'm trying to
Go ahead.
keep up on. So eventually, it's kind of like Brad held up his coffee cup. You crack that coffee cup, and all of a sudden, um, it doesn't hold all of the nice, neat little answers that you thought you had.
Yes.
It holds so much more,
Yes.
and yet that leads to a period of chaos, of hardship. Your world falls apart.
That's kind of where we're at right now, with what's happening in the church.
Exactly.
There's
Yep.
a lot of people that have left and they're in a state of disorder. Even the ones that are still in are in a state of disorder.
Yeah, even the ones that are still in, they go to convention, and there's only 100. There's 100 people or 200 people instead of 1,000. And you look around and you go, oh, what happened? Well, of course they have answers because they still live in that order. But um, disorder is what leads you then to a reordering, or as I call it, being born again. It's part of something that's larger, or you can see things with new eyes. And that, in my experience, is a cycle that goes over and over and over, where and it's in in different aspects of not just my life or the 2x2s or even the world in general. The world, we're in our world right now, we're kind of going through a time of disorder where everybody's looking at what's going on and thinking, okay,
How do I fit in?
yeah, what do we do now? Because things aren't working like they used to.
Right.
Now what?
What is it that is important to us that we want to save or to uh, grow into or whatever, So that those three containers um, follow on in so many different aspects of not just our lives but the world around us as well. And it's kind of a way of looking at what you might be going through right now, just a recognition that, oh, I get it. Okay, so I'm going through a time of chaos, a time of disorder. Well, there is the spring comes, the sun comes up eventually. It's not dark all the time.
Right.
Eventually
It can feel
the
like
cycles turn, and pretty soon you're going, oh wow, yeah, great, it's summertime, I'm comfortable.
Right.
But then, eventually fall comes, and that's fine. That's all part of the cycle of learning of
Right.
life, in my experience. Again, try the spirits.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
You wanted to talk about forgiveness? Or you kind of
um,
already did.
oh, well, that's also dualistic thinking. If Dualistic thinking is very much the first container, that's order, and then non-dualistic thinking is very much the reorder. Out of all the pain that comes out of the disorder, comes dualistic thinking. It's another way it's a different way of seeing things. It's not black and white. It's
Right.
not either or. It's not good or bad. You find out that there's a little bit of good in everybody. There's a little bit of bad in everybody, and that's okay. Living with that dichotomy, and I'm going to turn the screen off if I'm not careful with my hands again. Um, um, Living with that dichotomy, they're both true,
Yeah.
and being able to see that and accept that is a big help. So forgiveness, you ask about forgiveness, and I already kind of mentioned it, but um, forgiveness has to come. True forgiveness has to come from that child that is within you. It doesn't mean that the harm wasn't didn't happen. It definitely did happen. And are there replications? Yes,
Mhm.
there are. Um, but um, that inner child, there is a part in you that was never hurt, and that's where forgiveness comes in without being a doormat, without
Right.
being rolled over. That's where Father, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing.
Right.
Um,
there's another part of that too, and that's we're all connected. Um the everybody, we all are connected, and we're connected through the spirit. Everybody. It and so
that child that we have within us, that Christ child that we have within us, that light, we're all connected in that way.
Right.
Every one of us.
And so we can look at somebody else and go, "Oh, I can see how you screwed up. I'm forgiving you, but I can also see how you may have felt like you could do that." We have a friend who shoots himself in the foot all the time, and he's always thinking that he's hurt us, and we say, "No, you're really just hurting yourself."
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's it's a different way of looking.
It is.
It's definitely something that we're not used to, and it definitely takes practice
Yes.
to think non-dualistically.
Yes. I say a lot that we are responsible to people. We're not responsible for them. And that's just learning about the individual responsibility that we each have for our own healing. Nobody's going to do it for us. There isn't like this magic wand out there. That's partly why I want to have so many different perspectives and so many different ways of looking at life, because that's what's going to help people find what resonates with them. But when we can get to the place of saying, I am going to worry about what I am, like, when I stay in my own, I'm responsible for me and to you. And that just takes away the burden of, like, I don't judge. I just don't ever hang up the phone and think, whatever. It takes
Yeah.
away the judgment for me, I guess.
Right. Right.
Because,
Yeah. And that's a very healthy place to be,
yes,
when you can walk down the street and see someone who is not like you
right.
and not judge that person.
Exactly.
That's such a freeing place to
It
be.
is.
Really.
They may have they may have problems. They may,
Right.
and it may not be working for them at the time, but that's between them
Right.
and their that's them on their journey. That's
Right.
part of their journey. We
But if
all
there
have a
is
journey.
something you can do for them, that's where the responsibility to them comes in. I'm not responsible for
Right.
their choices, but if there's anything that I can do to help them on that journey when I can clearly see that they need help, that's where the what would Jesus do steps in. Like, just do it.
Right.
Don't
Yeah.
I
overthink it.
think it's
Analyze it. Don't look at it 15 different ways. Should I or shouldn't I? Like, if you truly love humanity and you love other people and you're very clear about who you are as an individual person, then you have a huge capacity with which to give. So it's not that
yeah.
complicated.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for us that we aren't answering
No,
from
no, we
the
are. I want to talk about the non-dualistic, because I think that that's right where a lot of people are, is just living in that tension between the way that they've been taught to think and the old programming, and finding their new identity. And there's just so much of that. Like, both can be true, but sitting with that discomfort, I want to just have that conversation for a second about that it is possible for a morally sinful person to be loved by a child. But, like, yeah, I'm going to have you
So
say it
so
your way.
um let's talk about prayer for a moment,
Okay.
because when we're going through all these things, and we're in that tension, like you say. um my prayer life consists primarily of just listening. God knows my questions. He knows what I need.
Mhm.
um I just need to listen
Right.
and actually hear what he's saying, because it's a good possibility that a lot of times you'll get an answer that you'll think, I don't know what that was, but it can't be it can't be for me. Well, just listen. Just listen. And so living in that tension of understanding, that
we're all in this together.
we're all in this together. All of us. We're all in this together. Um a big part of what your channel here is doing is that there are some glaring wrongs that have been committed, and those wrongs have to be brought to justice. They
Yeah.
just have to be.
Yes.
And
But we don't
but
hold
in the middle of all that, I can't hate anyone. I
Right.
just can't. It's just not in me.
Right.
Um because hate just eats away at all the other aspects of my life,
Right.
and peace. Peace is a hard thing to find right now, but it's there. It's there to be had. And again, it it comes from living in that space
Living in the
where
light.
you're not injured. You're not wounded. You're okay. You're a child of God. He's holding you in his, you're God's favorite. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're okay.
Yes.
And from there, then you can heal right in the middle of all of this
Right.
prosecuting that needs to happen.
Right. And I think that that's, you've mentioned the channel a couple of times, and that's I will just say from my own personal perspective, I also can't hate. I don't have it in me. It's not who I am. I am not going about this with any bitterness or any, I mean, what I am doing is calling a spade a spade. I'm tired of being nice. I'm tired of saying, oh, I'm fine when we're not fine.
Exactly.
It's
Yes.
just
Yes.
all the polite, all of the like that's what's wrong. It's the duplicity, it's the double standard, I'm just shining a light. I say it all the time. I say it at least once a week. Cockroaches run when you shine the light in a kitchen. It's just how it is. And I'm just shining the light. I just want it to be seen for what it is. I'm not trying to change
Right.
it. I just want it to be seen for what it is. Don't say what you are, say what you mean what you say. They don't do that. It's just shining the light on. I'm not judging them. I'm not hating on them. I'm literally just saying, okay, you said this and you're doing this. And here's the proof. Like, if we can't have
Right.
a day in court, then we're certainly going to have a day of civil public reckoning because
Yeah, when your ego doesn't have a dog in this fight,
right,
and you're coming from that place of pureness,
right.
because the ego is when things kind of want to go sideways.
I don't need to be right. I just am
Yeah.
going to keep shining the light. It's not about being right
Yeah.
or wrong. It's
Right.
just
Amen.
sadly, I wake up every single day and it's one more thing that I'm like, I couldn't make this up if I tried. So whatever, that's on them. And I just want to encourage people who are watching today, watching later, watching anytime, like if we could spend the time worrying about where we need to move forward, that's what I love about you guys is the moving forward part. They will spin themselves like we don't have to spend as much time worrying about what they're doing, what they're saying, like if we can shine this light bright enough,
Right.
they just won't be able to withstand that. And that's all we're trying to do here is have so much love and so much way forward and so much so that we're doing it publicly because for all these reasons. We're not running anymore. We're not hiding. You don't get to keep us scared. We're not scared. We're not anything. We love. We're praying for
Amen,
you.
Crystal.
We're hoping.
And for our part, and I'm sure for a lot of people's parts that's listening, we're so honored to be a part of that.
Yeah, it's going to take all of us having the courage to stand up in love and to say, I'm no longer afraid of you. You no longer have control over me. I know who I am. I know that I am a child of the Most High God. I know that that's it. That is it. I know that I am loved. I know that I am worthy. End of conversation.
I don't know why I was born into this time, but I'm glad I was
Yes.
because it's well worth doing.
Yeah.
I think that it's important too for people to know that to for those that still have loved ones in, don't be afraid to reach out in love to them. And I did that just the other day, a good friend of mine, and I just reached out to him and wrote him and out of the bottom of my heart, and he responded, and
Mhm.
it was good. And I think making those connections is really important
Yes.
for them to know that we don't hate them. We're not trying to malign them, that we actually love them and want them to step into further joy and to further knowledge of God.
And if they would just
And
not be duplicitous about what they're doing, not say one thing and do
yeah,
something else, we would back off. Just
right.
it's not this is
Yes.
not that hard.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm going to open it up for questions really quick because we're running down on time. Melody's saying she likes what you just said about the listening being a big part of prayer. Yes, Jared Lairwick talks a lot about listening prayers as well. So if anybody's out there, you want to do some research, if you Google listening prayer, it is a thing. definitely a thing. He does already know what we need. And Brad's saying, we're honored to have you sharing your story today, and the joy that you have is so evident. Thank you both. Any questions that you guys have out there for Kevin and Charlene? Because I have been so blessed to have you as my friends. I want to thank Darla Denherter for connecting us so many years ago.
Yes.
She did,
Uh,
didn't she?
and, I have watched you guys. For those of you who don't know, like, Sherlene has reunited with her baby that she gave up, and she's now a grown woman, and she's an amazing human, and they have a great relationship. But I have loved watching you guys go on and off the road. They lived on a sailboat for a while. I went to the sailboat many times. Like you're not afraid. You're not living in fear at all. You're living out loud. You're living with, like, what's next? Let's go do it and have fun along the way. And it's right now, you're building this cool house. You've been here to our homestead. You're kind of doing the same thing there. I love it. I mean, you're just living and loving. And the wake that you leave behind you is just joyful. And it's fun and it's exciting because you're not static and you're not stuck. And that's my biggest hope for anybody watching today, is that they would look at the two of you and say, I want to be like them. I want that. I want those smiles. I want that joy. I want to lose this fear. This is ridiculous. I'm tired of living like this. That's the inspiration that I feel from you guys and always have. And I just love you
Thank
both
you.
so much for that.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And you were very much an inspiration to us
You
too,
are.
for
Well,
sure.
it has just been a true joy. I'm going to give you guys last word, but I also I wanted to give you the final ability to say, what does today look like for you? Like, where you are right this minute, not where you're going to be in 5 years. Where are you right now? How do you spend your days? And how are you looking forward, you know?
Go ahead, babe.
So in the morning, well, first of all, we bought 4 acres about 3 years ago, and we're developing that into a regenerative farm. And for the sole purpose of feeding people and also encouraging connection and belonging. Just, we want our place to be a place of welcoming for anybody who needs it, who wants it. And we I don't know, it's been a the reason that we wake up in the morning. And one real quick thing is, we've been going through a book called A Course in Miracles that has literally been our journey for the last year and a half, and it's so good. We've learned a lot about what we've talked about today through the Course in Miracles. It isn't something that you just jump into and read overnight. It
Right.
is a year-long process, and even longer. We're actually on our second time around now. But I'd say anybody who really wants to learn and grow, it's well worth doing. It's a wonderful. And my shout out to Heather Carr. She's the one that turned us on to it, and I love you for doing that. It has been awesome. Anything else?
Well, first of all, I'm 65, she's 64. We don't get out of bed in the morning until we're done sleeping. Okay.
We're
Yay.
retired.
So then when we do get up, we have our cup of tea or whatever. I don't drink caffeine anymore for health reasons, actually, believe it or not. But we sit there and it's just a quiet time.
Mhm.
And we go through our Course in Miracles, and we talk about things, and we may talk about something that we learned yesterday or that came to us or whatever, and that can last several hours. We joke. We joke. We have a house to build, okay? And we are right on it, the crack of noon every day. We're we're out there building this house.
Ah.
And we do that 6 days a week. I insist on a day off. Sunday is my day off, our day off.
Right.
And so we have we try and, for all of the things that we have to do, we try and have a very well-rounded, very healthy day, or week or time period, Um, but yeah, this property, the very first time I ever set foot on it, I knew that it was going to play a very powerful role in our lives because um the early disciples and apostles, you might very well have called it a table ministry, you know,
Mhm.
where you sit around the table and you talk about things like we're talking right now,
Right.
and I think that's important today. We need to have a place where people feel welcome. It's
Yes.
a healthy place to go and eat healthy food that's grown in healthy ground and talk about healthy things.
Yes.
And that's our vision right now.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yes.
Um, I guess if I was to leave on one more thought, this idea of agape love, agape means love. So First John tells us God is agape. God is love. And there's no division in there. There's no has love, sometimes loves, chooses to love. God is love. So what if we went around and we were talking about God as love? In the Bible, love says, or
Oh,
um,
I like that.
we have
like that.
billboards here every once in a while. Every
Yeah.
once in a while, you might see a billboard. When you die, you will meet God. When you die, you will meet love. If we just switch those words out, they mean the same thing,
Yes.
but culturally, they carry completely different weight, completely different baggage. God is
Like
love.
that idea, Kevin.
So when we refer to God, let's refer to God as love. And I think just that little change right there
Yes.
makes a big difference.
Yes.
Makes a big difference.
I love
So
that. That is, yeah, that is my bonus of the day. Wow. Thank you. Okay. Well, we could go on and on because we always have for years and years. We just go on and on and on. So we're going to have to cut this off, but I want to thank both of you I know you put a lot of time and energy into preparing for today, into just streamlining your thoughts for everybody. Thank you for being such an inspiration and for being the love that you are discussing. You truly are living it. And I am a personal person to testament to that. I have watched you live it in love, and with grace. So I'm going to read you just a couple comments and we're going to head off here. Melody Lynn saying, Sherlene, love seeing you here. Our Oregon roots, childhood memories flood back for me. So sweet. And Kelly saying, when I understood grace, I died and met love. Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
So awesome.
amen.
Amen. All right.
Amen.
Well,
One last thing.
yeah.
Everybody, that was Taco that I was holding. He's our 14-year-old puppy dog.
Yeah.
And he's blind and he's not doing he's in his last years.
Yeah.
So just wanted you to know that was Taco.
Once in a while, he needs to be held to be reassured that
Yeah.
we're here. So
Don't we
Yeah.
all? Don't we all?
we did.
And one more thing, go Seahawks.
Oh, go,
Oh, yes. I have my green.
go Seahawks.
Yes, I'm with you there. Okay. Love you guys so much.
I love
Love
you
you
too.
too.
Bye.
Okay. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye bye.